Welcome back. My favorite part of filming every single month, it's wrap up time. We're gonna start with the movies, if you couldn't tell by the background, and let me know what you think about the background because I'm pretty obsessed with my wall and I don't know if it's looking that good on camera, but we will see. I rewatched Clueless by Emmy Herkling, 1995, starring Alicia Silverstone, Stacey Dash, Brittany Murphy, Paul Rudd, goated list. And I remember watching Clueless when I was younger, so this was kind of a first watch, but also a rewatch, whatever you want to call it. And I absolutely loved it. This was such a funny movie, and I really liked Cher as a character, and it was just silly and funny, and I love 90s movies. If you don't know, Clueless follows Cher, who's this very successful, pretty, everyone loves her girl at school. She's this it girl and she matches these two teachers and she makes over the new student and they become friends and she falls in and out of love, and it's just kind of about her growing as a character and growing as a girl, and she's very misguided at the beginning. She thinks she's always doing the right thing, but things are kind of backhanded and not that kind of nice at all, and she just learns and looks stylish while doing it, and I kind of actually really love this movie now. The next movie I watched was Rebecca 2020, directed by Ben Wheatley, starring Lily James, love of my life, Armie Hammer, should be in jail, and yeah, that's Rebecca. This is kind of a rewatch technically because I remember watching this, but I also kind of it's weird. I remember watching this movie, but it felt so different when I just rewatched it, and maybe that's just because I'm grown up now, but I don't know. And I rewatched this, if you will, because I read the book finally, and I really liked the book, and unsurprisingly, this movie was kind of a letdown. Cinematically, beautiful, gorgeous, gothic. Lily James looked stunning, and I feel like at points they stayed very true to the story, but at other points it really didn't. I think if I had would have watched this as a standalone, I don't think I would have hated it as I don't think I would have disliked it as much as I do. But comparing it to the book, it just doesn't hit the same at all. And I've heard that there's a version from the 80s, maybe even earlier, that's supposedly very good, so I will have to watch that. But yeah, it just really missed the plot and felt like Rebecca has a very dramatic book, but it felt over dramatized at points that were very unnecessary, if that makes sense. Not a fan, even though I love Lily James. The next movie I'm so excited to talk about because I feel like more people need to know about this movie and more people need to watch this movie, and it's The Ugly Stepsister 2025, and I watched this in cinemas, directed by Emily Christine Blickfeld, and this is a Norwegian production, starring Leah Miran, Andel Torp, Thea Sophie Loch Ness, many people, as well as Malte Gardinger. If you've watched Young Royals, that's August, the actor who plays August in Young Royals, and I didn't know he was in this, and I was flabbergasted. I was like, oh my god, he's in this, and this was such an intense, crazy, beautiful movie. This is basically, if you want to take it like that, it's a Cinderella retelling following the ugly stepsister, one of them. It's crazy. It's a horror movie, let that be known. It's a very gory horror movie, very gory. I like, if I watch horror, which I don't tend to do a lot, it's always the gory movies that I want to watch or can stomach watching, which is crazy because it did make me feel sick, but I don't like too creepy of a movie, and this is not necessarily creepy. It's just very gory, especially focused on the body, very body horror, and messy, and a lot of things surrounding food and stomach. It's a Cinderella retelling, like I said, and we follow the ugly stepsister as she, like we know the story of Cinderella, also tries to find her own prince. And we start with Elvira, that's her name, being a very sweet and innocent girl. She's hopelessly in love with the prince, and she doesn't think that she needs to change for him. She's okay with what she has. She's okay with being herself. She's absolutely gorgeous, and she just for sure knows and manifests being with the prince, and then everything changes because her family, society, like everyone around her tells her that she's not good enough, that she needs to change that and that and that. And this is obviously said way back when, and the methods of changing Europeans were even more gruesome than they are today. And she does a lot. She does a lot to fit into society and get the love that she thinks she deserves. And she does deserve love, but she doesn't, not necessarily in this way. And we have this kind of beautiful parallels between Cinderella characters and the ugly stepsisters character, as they both kind of want and need to achieve the same thing, but they're doing it from very different points. But they have this unspoken, I personally think, understanding of why the other person is doing what they're doing, even though they both want the same guy theoretically. And truly, 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 if you have a sensitive stomach, do not watch this. There were multiple times in the cinema where I thought, I really hope no one throws up right now, because they're very gory. And I myself thought to myself, oh, I'm glad that I'm not eating anything right now while watching this. And I thought it was a very interesting and cool take, and it has so many layers and so many perspectives to look at this, and beautifully made Scandinavian movies, top notch. Will always recommend. Banging soundtrack, and a wonderful use of sound and music in this, and cinematography, gorgeous. Even the most disgusting scenes, I just was thinking to myself, this is shot beautifully, this is edited beautifully, this color grading and light, and as you can tell, I really love this movie. This is a 5 star from me. Love, love, love. I would totally rewatch this, but I think I would maybe skip some parts just because I don't need to watch that again. I've seen it, and I'm just here for the beautiful vibes and the beautiful girls. The other stepsister, smash. No, all of them, but her especially. The next day, I did a very dramatic switch and watched an entirely different movie in the cinema, and it was the live-action remake of How to Train Your Dragon, which I'm a huge How to Train Your Dragon fan. Have been ever since I was a tiny, tiny girl and watched the series on live television, which is crazy to think about. I rated this 1.5 stars. This is directed by Dean DeBlois. DeBlois. Don't know how to say his last name. You can tell how much love and passion went into this project. This stars Mason Thames as Hiccup and Nico Parker as Astrid, and both of them beautifully casted. Toothless looked gorgeous, and if you're the type of person who wants something new from a live action remake, this is not your movie. They did tweak a little bit, but it's very much still the same story. It doesn't add on any big plot lines, and it's very true to its original form. And I think, yes, you can complain about live action remakes, but I think in this case, I think it's just lovely to see that these young actors got the chance to act out these cool childhood iconic hero roles. And I think that's what live action remakes should be about. And just giving these actors the chance to play their favorite characters. And of course, there are many, many, many live action remakes that don't necessarily are that good, but this one is good in my eyes. And then I watched an animated movie, and it's possibly my favorite Disney movie, which is Hercules, directed by Ron Clements and John Musker, 1997, starring Tate Donovan, Josh Keaton, Roger Budd, Danny DeVito. Iconic cast. Hercules is of course based on Greek mythology, and I'm a huge Greek mythology nerd. I have been reading a lot of books recently that surround Greek mythology. Always have been, but I'm definitely back in the phase deeply, 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 and I'm itching my fingers until I get the new Percy Jackson season. Anyway, that's not important. I rewatched Hercules. I love Hercules. There's not much to say. Hercules gets stolen from his parents by Hades and kind of lives a normal human life, but he's very powerful, and then he meets Megara, and it's just great mythology, like, my god, in the musical version, which I love. And then I might have rewatched Hamilton. 2020, directed by Thomas Kail and Lin-Manuel Miranda, of course. Yeah, that's my man. Starring Lin-Manuel Miranda. Why am I tearing up? I love Lin-Manuel Miranda. Can you tell that I love Lin-Manuel Miranda? My god. I need a Hamilton poster. Anyway, Leslie, Adam Jr., Renee. I could reach this whole entire cast list. Philippa So, that's it. Hamilton, of course, follows the founding father, one of the founding fathers, Alexander Hamilton, and his wife, Eliza Hamilton, and many, many things. It teaches us about American history. I've been obsessed with this ever since it came out originally, and I am always thinking about this. I'm always saying this, and I just needed a rewatch. And maybe, just maybe, I was cooking while I was rewatching this, and I cooked the whole entire way through the musical. Maybe because I kept getting distracted, but maybe also because I was having a good time. So, do with that what you will. The next two movies were part of my gay summer watching, my queer summer watching, and the first one was Heavenly Creatures, directed by Peter Jackson, 1994, starring Melanie Linsky, Love of My Life, and Kate Winslet, also Love of My Life. This is based on a true story, which I actually really didn't know, and I didn't know what the story was about. I didn't watch a trailer or read anything about it. I just knew that there were a lot of sapphic rumors about Melanie Linsky and Kate Winslet, and that seemed very important for me to check out. And so I didn't know anything going into this, and I was very surprised by the plot twists and just generally the plot. Didn't know what to expect. I'm a huge fan of this movie. This was such a brilliantly done movie. Cinematography beautiful. The girls were so sweet, and they were such sweet actors back then. In Heavenly Creatures, we follow Juliet and Pauline as they form this very unique bond based on literature, fantasy, and music, especially one musician. And they fall in love. I don't think there's any other way to read this other than sapphic romance. And they were in love, and this is based on a true and horrific story, because this story very quickly changes. Because the parents of both of these girls think the girls are growing too close, and they don't like that, so they change it. Definitely recommend if you want to. What is this genre? What is it? What does it say? Drama, fantasy, intense violence. And the last and final movie I watched in June was Fireworks, 2023, directed by Giuseppe Fiorello, sure, starring Samuel Segretto and Gabriele Pizzuro. This is an Italian movie set in Sicily in the 80s. So, as you can already tell by what I'm sad queer summer, okay? It's of course very homophobic time to live in, and these two young boys, despite everything, fall in love with one another. And we just follow the journeys of self-discovery, the sweaty summer Italian heat. I love Italian gay movies. The horrific truths of what society was like back then, and sadly still to this day, and how homophobic people were. Absolutely broke me, especially at the end. I was sobbing my eyes out. And those are all the movies. Let's do a rapid fire round of my star ratings, because I think I forgot to mention it for most of these. Clueless, 4. Rebecca, 2. The Ugly Stepsister, 5. How to Train Your Dragon, 4.5. Hercules, 5. Hamilton, 5. Heavenly Creatures, 5. Fireworks, 4.5. And I think that's a very well done movie month, despite Rebecca at the beginning of that. Let's talk about the books I read. I actually managed to read 7 books, and most of these were pretty hefty books, if I'm being honest, for myself at least. And I'm so glad that I read all of these. There's only one odd one out that I didn't necessarily like as much as I thought I would, and let's get into it. The first book I read was Orphea and Eurydice by Elsie John. Greek mythology retelling. Gender swap of the original story of Orpheus and Eurydice, of course. Very interestingly, I think maybe I'm just a huge Greek mythology fan, but I think I still am able to review these objectively. Both of the Greek mythology books that I read this month didn't have that good of a review, but I really liked them. This was so poetic. I couldn't believe it. Like, it makes sense, of course, if you know the myth. But it was so poetic and so well done, and I think the gender swap made a lot of sense, and it was very interesting to read about, because I saw a lot of people complain about that this was unnecessary and that it didn't make sense, and that the female character was way too masculine for the gender swap to make sense. But I think it was nice. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too easygoing, but I really liked it. So, sorry. While I'm talking about this, I do also want to mention that I'm very soon going to be seeing Hadestown, and both the Greek mythology books that I read this month just made me even more excited to see Hadestown. Anyway, if you don't know the myth, let me tell you what the summary says. Orphea dreams of something more than a warrior crafts she's been forced to learn. Hidden away on far-flung island, her blood sings with poetry, and her words can move flowers to bloom and forests to grow. But her father, the sun god Apollo, has forbidden her this art. A chance meeting with a young shield-maker, Eurydice, gives her the courage to use her voice. After wielding all her gifts to defeat one final champion, Orphea draws the scrutiny of the gods. Performing her poetry, she wins the protection of the goddesses of the arts, the powerful Muses, who welcome her to their sanctuary on Mount Parnassus. Orphea learns to hone her talents, crafting words of magic infused with history, love, and tragedy. When Eurydice joins her, Orphea struggles with her desire for fame and her budding love. As her bond with the gentle shield-maker grows, she joins the Argonauts on their quests for the Golden Fleece. Facing dragons, sirens, and ruthless warriors on the voyage, Orphea earns unparalleled fame, but she longs to return to Eurydice. Yeah, like I said, this was wonderfully poetic. I might just also read you a line. And I really liked it. I didn't think there was anything wrong with the story. A lot of people, like I said, complained about the gender swap and didn't like how masculine the female person was. But I don't. She, in a lot of ways, she was very masculine. But I feel like if you didn't really read the book, if you perceived her as only masculine, because she had these very tender and feminine moments, just like the male counterpart had. He's a very feminine man, but that's not a bad thing, of course, like it is in real life. And I think if you didn't like that about this book, maybe this is just not the story for you. Because I thought it was beautiful, and I really liked Orphea being bossy and knowing what she likes, and I thought it was sexy from both of them. Definitely my types, both of these characters. Anyway, always been absolutely fascinated by Orpheus's and Eurydice's story, and this just really, really, really was well done. And just the first few pages, I underlined so many things. Let me just read you the first lines. I sharpened my spear with poetry and hardened my arm with the memory of lyre strings. Each line grew in my mind with glimmering force, a shoot pushing out of loam, promising petal and seed. The goddesses surged through me as my sandals swept the dust. That's hot as fuck. I love poetic writers. Sure, tell me 100 words that I don't know, but it sounds beautiful. I'll eat it up every single time. Big fan. Cannot wait to see Hadestown. The next book I will not do such an in-depth review of like I did with the other one, just because it had its own video on my channel, and it's The Beasting by Paul Murray. And if there's anything to say, is that I absolutely love this book. I was really scared that I wouldn't, just because of how big it is and how I was committing to this book. But I loved every single minute, every single word. Paul Murray had a message he wanted to say, and he did it wonderfully. In The Beasting, we follow this family of four: mother, father, daughter, son. We just kind of live with them. They each get their own perspectives, their own POVs, their own chapters. They get to tell their side of the story, and we just kind of, it's like we live with them and we learn their trauma and their generational trauma and the ways they deal with things and the way that all goes wrong and the way that family matters to all of them in different ways. And it's a wonderful story. It focuses a lot about climate change and many important other in real life topics, and it's set in Dublin and in the countryside of Ireland. If you want to try to combat your big book fear with any book, let it be The Beasting. The next book I'm also a huge fan of, and it's The Honeys by Ryan LaSala. I ordered this, and the second that it arrived, I just wanted to read it. And yeah, this is The Honeys. In The Honeys, we follow Mars, who just very recently lost his sister, Caroline. And in wanting to find out more about her death and her last moments on this planet, he goes to her favorite place in the world, which is a summer camp that he also used to attend. And we very quickly learn that there are a lot of traumatic experiences on why Mars left this camp, because Mars is gender fluid. And I'm absolutely in love with Mars. This has also a queer romance, and it's kind of a YA horror, I think. It's a horror book. Just the setting of the summer camp, of course. I love summer camp settings. It just gets weirder and weirder and weirder, and I really liked it. And it's culty. They're these very beautiful culty girls, and Mars is wonderful, and Mars's romantic interest is wonderful, and it just had a lot of plot twists and turns, and I really, really liked it. I'll definitely reach it first line because I thought it was very interesting way to start a book. My camera just overheated. That is how hot it is. And I'm also overheating, so I'll try to be a bit quicker. This is the first line of The Honeys. My sister wakes me with a whisper. I love you, Mars. Her voice crumbles in her throat. In the moonlight from my window, I can see the gleam of tears streaked over her jaw. She hovers so close, I can smell her. Not her usual shampoo, but an unripe odor. The rich sweetness of decay, like molding flowers. That's The Honeys, a very twisty and turny book, and culty. Loved every second. Now I know I've said multiple times that I will stop talking about these books, but I just continue to read them, and then I will have to mention them in my wrap up, which is Percy Jackson, and I just kind of trying to get through the Apollo series. I'm not vibing with it as much as the other series, but I read The Dark Prophecy, which is the second book in this one. I just like these less than the original series. Both of them. Yeah, anyway. But I think this will get better eventually, because that's usually how it tends to go with Percy Jackson series. I don't hate it, but I just don't like it as much as I like the other ones, but I still like it, you know? The next two books were all in my summer TBR, which I cannot believe I already read some of those. And the first one was Creep by Emma Van Straten. And in Creep, we follow Alice and Tom, mostly Alice. They're in love. They live together, they use the same toothbrush, they share a bed, they whatever. And then we find out that Alice actually isn't known to Tom. Tom doesn't know her. Alice is just his cleaner. He hired a cleaner, and Alice has been cleaning his flat and been falling in love with him. And this is very much a kind of, not an essay, but it's a lot more about what's not happening than what is actually happening. Because of course these are these very traumatic things happening, but it's more about why these people are doing the things that they're doing, and especially how women with mental health issues are a lot of the times not taken seriously or not getting the help that they deserve and need. And also about race and class, and yeah, just generally how society views lost people, dare I say, and how there needs to be done a lot of more research and helping in cases such as this. I thought this was wonderful. This has its rightful place on my weird girl fiction shelf. Not because I find these girls weird, but that's just what this niche genre can be described as, you know. Unhinged girlies, you know, they just do their own thing, and but they should be getting therapy. But you know, also kind of let them do their thing. This is set in London, which is always exciting. Love London, miss London. And that's all there is to say about Creep. And my favorite thing about my summer reads is always, I don't know if it's visible on camera, how water damaged they are. And just, it adds to the vibe. I won't read you the first line, but I will, like, it starts at the lowest part of the page, just because the first line wouldn't really make sense, but this is a very nice line that I'm going to read you. You think you know what love is, I imagine, but you don't. It's not holding hands and feeling safe, fond smiles and tender kisses, bringing home silk-petaled flowers on a Friday, picking up that green and bone-dry wine you know he likes. I spit on that. Love is this. When it is your greatest desire to slice open his chest and crawl inside him to rest. A compulsion to drink his blood, great copper gulps of it, to press yourself to him, limb to limb, palm to palm, so that you might be absorbed, burrowing inside his bones, becoming his very marrow, as disappearing entirely into him. This is the way I love him, and the way he must surely love me. This is also a debut, which is crazy. She has such a way of words. Definitely recommend, and will be looking forward to her next release, maybe. I have 2 more books left, and this one is the other Greek mythology book that I mentioned. And it is Fruit of the Dead by Rachel Leon, and fuck them haters. The second I finished this book, I opened and wanted to review it, and then I saw the reviews and everyone was hating on this book. they just don't understand it. If you're reading a book, let me tell you about what the book is of of let me first of all tell you what the book is about. This was also part of my summer TBR. Beautiful cover, obsessed with the cover. This is a reimagination of the myth of Demeter and Persephone and kind of Hades. This book switches between perspectives, technically, of Persephone and Demeter. In this version, though, they're called Kori, which is Persephone, and Demeter, which her name is Emer. They're mother and daughter, like Persephone and Demeter, of course. And they're set in this it's very, very, very contemporary reimagination. This is set in summer on this very intense and beautiful and expensive island. And we start with Kori, who is a camp counselor at her summer camp that she's always gone to. She's very relatably lost in life, doesn't know what she wants to do, and struggles a lot. And yeah, she just feels very lonely and lost in this world, which, same girl, underlined a very hard-hitting thoughts. And in this camp, a little one of her campers introduces her to his dad. And his dad is a CEO of a very, 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 very well-known, famous pharmaceutical company. He's middle-aged, divorced, and apparently attractive. He invites her to his island. It's his island, kind of, to nanny his two kids. And she has to sign an NDA. She goes with him, doesn't really tell her mom anything about this job, and very much similar to how Hades took Persephone. Let's just say that. This is, at its core, about mother and daughterly love, and also about grooming and damaged girls in this horrible, horribly, wickedly world, the terrific horrors that is a man, especially men in power. Like I said, then I open the reviews and I see people complaining about the whole plot point. Like, there are people complaining about, like, drug abuse and the grooming, and I'm like, but that's the whole point of the story. This definitely, the blurb on here says, Ancient Greece meets Succession by way of Emma Klein. That makes so much sense, just because very much doesn't feel like a Greek retelling, but like a literary fiction story, especially the ones right above me, which are the weird girl books and stories of girls being abused and silenced and fighting back and sometimes failing at that, and just the horrors of being a girl. And that very much was this book. And if you then start complaining about the main character not helping herself and the love interest being an absolute ass and grooming this girl and the mother not doing a very motherly job, then you just don't get the point, because this is a very, dare I say, a real story, especially the mother-daughter relationship and all of these poor unfortunate souls trying to find their way in life and making mistakes. And if you're going to review this and say that you hated the characters because they didn't feel real and made so many mistakes, then maybe you just shouldn't read this. You shouldn't read literary fiction books. And if a groomed and abused girl going back to her abuser shocks you, then I'm sorry, you haven't talked to every person in 10 years. Which, I don't condone that behavior, but it happens a lot because people are groomed. Anyway, I should shut up. 5 stars. Absolutely love that book. And let me read you a line. I think this is going to be a very long wrap up, which I'm always excited about. Like, legit, the dedication. I won't shut up about this book, apparently. The dedication of this for my mother and my daughter. Heartbreaking. And then there's also a quote by Louisa Gluck, and it says, there are places like this everywhere. Places you enter as a young girl from which you never return. And my heart goes out to Persephone. This had so many good lines. As far as she can tell, she has no interests, no desires, except to spend time outdoors, far away from home, to lose herself in the intricacies of a landscape, to bliss out under the ever-changing sun. And the last book I just read yesterday. Sorry for hitting you there. And it's This Is How You Lose the Time War. First of all, I'm very glad to own this and have this, because I just had 4 new additions to my shelf, thanks to my wonderful friend who has way too many books, and if she sorts through them and wants to get rid of them, she gives them to me. And I'm very glad of that. But I expected more. I'm not a hater of this book. I think It had a very poetic prose, and I did like the romantic aspect of this book. It just felt way too short for what it was trying to do. It sets you up in this very dystopian fantasy-esque world that you kind of don't get to know. So you really don't know what's going on, and the romance also feels very sudden and quick, which when it was happening I liked it, but the ending and the beginning of that romance plot, it felt a bit lost, and there were more parts that I didn't like about this than the ones that I liked, and I'm really surprised by that because I've seen a lot of good reviews, and the friend that lent it to me, we have very, very similar reading taste when it comes to horror, gothic, and sometimes literary fiction. But when it comes, I feel like, to these type of stories, we tend to have different tastes, except for this one. Like an example, Lie With Me. I absolutely love it. She doesn't like it. And she told me that she didn't really like this one. And I thought, well, maybe that means I'll love it. And I didn't. Let's say I was entertained by reading and I didn't have a bad time while reading, but there were a lot of bad things, not bad things, but there are a lot of things to criticize about this book. So I'll leave you with that. It just felt like I was watching a train pass by. Many trains passing by, and I was like, couldn't, Anyway, I'm glad to own it, like I said. I'm glad to have read it. It is not necessarily a short story, but I wish this was longer, because I think then I would have liked it. That's all there is to say. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I didn't ramble too much, but I think I really yapped my soul out today. It's hot. I hope you're not having a heat stroke like I am. I hope it's a little bit cooler wherever you're watching from and whatever day you're watching this on, because I hear the weather's cooling down a bit. If you've read or watched any of these, please let me know your thoughts. Like, actually, desperate to know. I had a very fun reading and watching this month. I hope you did too. Let me know your favorites of the month, and see you in the next one. Like always, love you and take care.